Ford has just released the all-new Ranger Raptor, and in this video, we're going to go over all of the details you need to know about this brand new vehicle. What's up, guys? Mitchell Watts with Town & Country TV, and as I just mentioned to you, we're going to cover all of the details of this brand new Ranger Raptor. It's kind of hard to believe that it took Ford Motor Company so long to bring a Raptor version of the Ranger to the United States, but it is finally here. So let's go ahead and jump into the exterior styling of this brand new Ranger Raptor. And the very first thing that we want to cover is going to be the LED projector headlights that you have at the front end of the vehicle. And it's got this little C-clamp design that kind of wraps around the grille. And speaking of the grille, you've got the infamous FORD in that front grille, just like you find on the Bronco Raptor and also the F-150 Raptor. The Ranger Raptor has an all-steel front bumper design, and they've also got frame-mounted tow hooks for the front and the rear, which is going to be important if you're going to be towing out those Toyota Tacomas. But anyways, talking about the rear end of the vehicle, I think it's pretty cool. They have an upgraded LED taillight that really does a good job of matching the front headlights. To me, they nailed the styling of the Ranger Raptor. It's kind of what I expected. It's no big, massive surprise, but I think it's very well done. And speaking of styling, the cab configuration of the Ranger, not just the Raptor Ranger, but all of the Rangers are going to be a Super Crew only, meaning that you get the 4 full doors and that's it. No Super Cab and no regular cab variant. Now, the rest of the exterior styling revolves around really the suspension. And what I mean by that is the track width of this vehicle, meaning how far apart are the tires from one another. It's going to be 3.5 inches wider than a normal Ranger. And if you want to count the overall width, you're talking 4.3 inches wider than a normal Ranger because of those larger flared out fenders. And 33-inch tires come standard on the new Ranger Raptor, and they are BFG ATKO3 tires. I have no issues with those tires, but I do wish they gave us a larger tire. Keep in mind, the Bronco Raptor comes standard with 37s. Keep in mind, the F-150 Raptor comes standard with 35s, but most people want the 37-inch performance package tire on there. So I'm not sure why they didn't give us a 35-inch tire option on the Ranger Raptor, but they're not going to listen to me because they didn't ask my opinion to begin with. Anyways, 17-inch wheels come standard on all of your Ranger Raptors, but you have 2 different versions. You'll have the normal wheel that you see right there, and you also have an optional beadlock capable wheel, which is an upgrade, obviously. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, the styling, but also really the functionality of the exterior of the vehicle, are going to be bash plates. You do have a front bash plate on the front end of this vehicle, and it is made of a high-strength steel. You also happen to have skid plates for your engine, transfer case, and the fuel tank, so just kind of keep that in mind. As far as the interior is concerned, you do get a massively upgraded interior. I think it looks really good. Now, some of this is just because you got a brand new Ranger coming alongside with this, and some of it is uniquely specific to the Ranger Raptor. For instance, you have an upgraded steering wheel, and it's got magnesium alloy paddle shifters, very similar to what you'll find in an F-150 Raptor. You also happen to have code orange centering marker on that steering wheel, so that way you always know where the dead center of the steering wheel is. It's great if you're bombing through the desert. And speaking of bombing through the desert, you've got upgraded seats as well. They are supportive, but they're going to be more bolsters. So that way, if you're bombing through that desert in a corner, those bolsters are going to help hold you into that seat a little bit better than the normal Ranger. 360-degree camera is going to be standard equipment on this new Ranger Raptor, which is great to see all of the suite of technology that Ford has make its way into this Ranger Raptor. For instance, the 12.4 instrument cluster. It's an all-digital dashboard that shows you everything. So that way, when you change out your drive modes that we're going to come into a second, it totally changes the animation that you have right in front of you. And other technology found inside of this new Ranger Raptor is going to be the Sync 4A system. It's got a 12-inch vertical Sync 4A touchscreen. It's got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Thank goodness Ford is not taking that away just to sell you a subscription. Anyways, if that's not enough, you've also got a Bang & Olufsen sound system inside of this vehicle. Now let's talk about the powertrain itself, and we're going to start off with the engine. This This is the most powerful Ranger Ford has ever built. It's got a 3-liter engine that is unique specifically to the Ranger Raptor. So 405 horsepower, 430 pound-feet of torque. And one of the ways that they're able to do that is with the turbos. Twin turbskis? They are allowed to get a lot more power out of this small engine because it has what they call a CGI block. It's a compact graphite iron block. And basically, this is the same kind of material that's used out of the Super Duty. You know, the one that creates well over 1,000 pound-feet of torque. Because you've got this upgraded block system, you're able to turn those turbos up a good bit more than you would on a traditional engine block. And speaking of turbos, there's a really cool anti-turbo lag system. So that way when you put it into Baja mode, it actually keeps the RPMs up on the vehicle. So that way when you're coming out of that corner and you punch the gas, your turbos are already spooled up and ready for partying. And speaking of turbos and getting that extra power, there is a really cool exhaust system called active valve exhaust. So you've got 4 different modes with this exhaust system: quiet, normal, sport, and then Baja. That Baja mode is intended for off-road use only, but these rednecks, especially in Alabama, are going to be riding around in Baja exhaust mode everywhere you go because it does sound good from what I can tell. 10-speed automatic transmission is class exclusive and standard on this new Ranger Raptor, and that's going to be mated to a new 2-speed transfer case. The Ranger Raptor also picks up front and rear locking differential, which is very important to note because the F-150 Raptor does not have the ability to have a locking front differential. It's a torsion limited slip. Now, thankfully, they've got that on the Bronco Raptor, the front and rear locking differentials. And I think it's kind of cool that both this one and that Bronco Raptor are assembled on the final assembly line in Michigan. Pretty cool stuff. But anyways, getting back to the vehicle itself, let's talk about the off-road modes, or the drive modes, if you will. You've got normal, tow haul, sport, slippery, off-road, rock crawl, and Baja. That's pretty cool. You also got a really cool trail control system, which basically allows you, if you're not that good of an off-road driver, you can have the vehicle manipulate the gas and the brake during low-speed off-road sessions. And it basically is like an off-road cruise control, if you will. It really does give you a lot more confidence if you're new to the off-roading game. Now let's talk about suspension. To get a good suspension, you have to make sure that you're working off of a solid foundation, the frame. The Ranger Raptor, and really all the Rangers, have a fully boxed frame from the front to the rear. But the Ranger Raptor actually has a beefed up frame, for even more so than that. And so places around like the frame rails and then the front shock towers, the rear shock brackets, suspension mounting points, a lot of other key areas, it's got a beefed up frame to make sure that you're not going to have any flex in the chassis itself. So I think that's really cool. And so that allows them to get a much better suspension system right out of the gate. And then Ford upped it one more by having like a lightweight upper and lower control arm. They're made out of aluminum. You've got Fox 2.5-inch live valve internal bypass shocks that are coilovers out front. And in the rear, you've got a long travel rear suspension with the Watts linkage and trailing arms. I really like that Watts linkage. Stupid joke, I know. But if you're not familiar with what Watts linkage is, it basically allows the suspension, that rear end, to be connected to the chassis by 2 different equal length horizontal rods. And what that does is it keeps that rear end centered directly underneath the body. Whereas like an old school traditional, as the rear suspension would travel down, it would also have to travel over. But because of this Watts linkage, it's able to travel straight up and down, staying centered. It's much better for an off-road suspension system. Lastly, for the rear end of the vehicle, you do get Fox reservoir shocks in the rear that's going to really just help soften and dampen up that whole bit of suspension. As previously mentioned, this vehicle is going to be built at the Michigan Assembly Plant in Wayne, Michigan, right next to the other Broncos. Ford is going to be starting to take orders later on in May of 2023, and they're going to start shipping these vehicles in late of summer 2023. Thanks for watching this video, and have a great day. Peace.